All right, welcome back to the Social Television Network's Leading in the Moment podcast series. I'm your host, Eric Sperling, and so happy to be talking once again with the president and CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Monica Villalobos. Monica, thanks for spending some time with us this afternoon.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for the invitation.
All right, like so many of our recent guests on this podcast, we were just talking about this. It was only a few weeks ago where you were in the studio. We were all talking about these great opportunities for our state. And now we have to talk about all the adjustments that we're making in this moment. And before we talk about some real solutions that are available that you're going to talk about for small business owners as well as those who have recently lost their jobs, I want to spend some time just talking about leading in the moment because you're great to talk with about this stuff. I know a lot of community leaders, business owners really being tested out there right now. What are some of those key leadership lessons that we really all need to focus on right now?
Yeah, I think really relying on our instinct. I think a lot of professionals have been in their fields for a very long time. We've seen what can happen if we do not act quickly enough, and we've seen what can happen if we act too quickly. So really managing that fine line of being able to be proactive, to be helpful to our constituency, and make sure that the people we're serving are taken care of. I know at the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, this is our moment. This is what we live for, right? Not this horrible circumstance, but the ability to step up in this desperate time of need for our members. That's what we're here for, and it's our purpose and our mission. So, making sure that we are being proactive, reaching out to our members, and providing real-time information is absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's great. I love how you said that too. Like instead of just sinking down in this moment, look at it and say, this is your moment and find ways to step up. Speaking of finding ways to step up, just what have you been encouraged by here locally in the community? I mean, so many, obviously we're dealing with the health crisis. Obviously we're dealing with the economic impact, but we are seeing so many stories of businesses, of people step up. So what are some of the things that really encouraged you lately?
As you mentioned, a few weeks ago, we were talking to the Chamber Collaborative and how much all of the chambers were really working together. And I'm encouraged by the fact that when things get really, really tough, people find their kindness and their compassion, and they realize that they may be down and out. And I've seen restaurants who are saying, we're down and out. We might have had to close our doors, but we're going to take that food that we had in reserve and we're going to donate it to a food bank. Which is an amazing, incredible demonstration of compassion. So I'm very encouraged and hopeful of the collaboration that's going on, not just among organizations that are looking to serve small businesses and the community at large, but also by those small businesses that are lifting each other up, that are helping each other, even when they're at their worst.
Right, and let's shift focus then to some of those solutions for small businesses right now, the ones that are really being tested. I think me and you have discussed this before. It's somewhere over 90% of the businesses in Arizona are small business. And then looking at your website, you guys have a pretty key stat there. 50% of small businesses have less than a 15-day cash buffer. And right now we've been shut down for, 2 weeks, going on 2 weeks, even longer. So what are some steps that you're recommending these small businesses who are they're flat out of cash right now?
Right. And that figure came from the JP Morgan Chase Institute that indicated the float that these small businesses have, or the cash buffer, is 2 weeks, and we're in week 2. So what we're advising, aside from providing resources, is making sure that these small businesses are getting their financials ready to be reviewed, whether it's for a grant, for a loan, for a customer donation, to be able to show them, hey, we're soluble. We just, we need the cash flow to keep us going. And so to have those things readily available, because regardless of who's giving the amount of in whatever form, you're going to need to provide some sort of financials. And so making sure that the bank statements are readily available, that last year's tax return is readily available. What most organizations that are preparing money for relief are looking at is payroll. What is your weekly payroll? How many people do you employ? And then I would say the last thing is really, what's your pivot strategy? If you're a restaurant, are you converting your waiters and waitresses into takeout ambassadors or delivery ambassadors? And what does that look like? How are you pivoting with this change? And no one pivots better than small businesses. They are the most nimble group of all of the small business segments. And I'm completely confident that given the opportunity to succeed, given the cash flow that they need, they will find a way to keep Arizona going, and they will find a way to keep America going.
And I like what you said too. As we sit here Thursday afternoon, relief is here, but the relief is still coming in different ways. And it's not. You just said something. It's not necessarily it's not necessarily a loan. Maybe that is what's going to help you through this. It might be a grant, right, or it might be a donation. Can you speak a little more about on just being open to finding other funds other than just going and getting a loan?
Sure, absolutely. Small businesses know everything there is to know about customer loyalty. You know who your best customers are, and they just need to be asked. Some of them may be strapped as well, but some of them may be willing to give you a donation. Maybe it's a meal a week. If you've got a customer who's coming in, and I just use the restaurant industry because they're on the front lines of this crisis, but those restaurants, if you have a customer that comes in once a week to have a meal, ask them for that donation in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's a future gift card, being really strategic. But that money's going to come in different forms. If you're not ready or you don't feel like you're in a position to take a loan out, there are grants. The relief package that's in the U.S. Congress today, and we'll know by noon tomorrow, has some relief money, has some loans that will include loan forgiveness as well. But again, as I mentioned earlier, all of those are going to require some form of financials, so start getting those ready. Start thinking about alternative ways to get that money. For those in the manufacturing, is there an opportunity to factor some of those things? And again, we're going to have to get really creative with how, we increase cash flow for small businesses. And that money may be in places that you didn't think of before. But in this situation, it's going to have to be top of mind.
Yeah, and I want to mention, because I'm on the site right now, I just love what you've done with azhcc.com. There is a special page set up for small businesses, having these resources, so many links that are very specific to maybe your industry or what you're going through. You mentioned pivoting. You mentioned businesses learning to pivot, and I'm sure you've been kind of a leader in that role for a lot of the businesses you work with over at the Chamber. So how can we as business owners be in that position and learn from some of the things that maybe you've experienced? I know your background and the other markets you've worked in. How can we be more open, I guess, to pivoting and not just saying, all right, this isn't going to work for me?
You have to have the stomach for it. And I think if you're a small business, you've already, you've grown that stomach of steel to go through these things. And so you don't really have a choice, right? And so I think that that's an advantage, and we need to leverage that. But as I said when I started, in any kind of leadership, it's trusting your instincts. You know your business better than anybody else. And you can create innovation within your space and do things differently. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the website as well. At azhcc.com, we're looking for resources, workshops, trainings, webinars, anything that we can find online to help businesses, including creating webinars about how to pivot, right? What's your industry? Doing consultancy on, and that's part of our membership, doing consultancy on, okay, tell us what your business is. Let's get a group together, a group of your peers, of other small businesses, and almost mastermind it, right? Let's get together and figure out one person's pivot strategy. Okay, great, we got that one. Then let's figure out the next person's pivot strategy and start thinking about, the tools that we have in our toolbox that we haven't used in a while.
Yeah, I just love what you said too about all these businesses coming together, and they are. And just from the discussions I've had this week with a lot of other top community leaders, the things that are being done in a split second to create these resources or these webinars or these coaching sessions is unbelievable. And I just think it is so important that everybody sort of shares what everyone else is doing. And I'm sure, you're seeing other businesses do that as well. And the other side I want to talk about is kind of to that point where we now have this growing pool of unemployment, right? I think it's just as of today, a record 3.3 million Americans just filed for unemployment. I think it's over 30,000 here in Arizona trying to find work. And so the communication again between businesses to businesses, what are you encouraged by, or are you encouraged by some of the businesses that maybe in a sort of a situation where they can bring on additional people or bring on additional roles? Are they getting the word out there that, hey, we're here hiring? Are you seeing that yet, or are we still kind of too soon in this process?
We are. I think Amazon's done a really good job of reaching out and saying, hey, we've got, deliveries are more important than ever. Packaging is more important than ever. We've got positions open in our warehouse. There are websites dedicated to, hey, we're hiring. Unfortunately, I don't think that small businesses are in that position yet.
Right.
They're trying to retain the current employees that they have. But I am encouraged by the larger companies like Amazon that are saying, okay, we've got jobs open. Here's, a warehouse location in the West Valley, and we've got 200 new jobs available in those spaces. So I think that that's, critical to remember as well. And how do we, how do we become important to consumers in different ways?
Yeah, such a tough time for everybody. You just mentioned some of these places that are hiring, and then there were people at home, that were still battling the health crisis, and they're concerned about leaving the house or leaving the quarantine, but they do need work. So, as you said, we're kind of where we started. We're in this moment where all of us need to step up and seize the moment and come up with these solutions. So, Monica, I just want to thank you again for everything that you're doing. And again, if you have the time or you need the resources, you need to visit the website. It's azhcc.com. And by the looks of it, right, seems like you're updating it constantly with new information.
We are. We're trying to give everybody real-time information, and, our background and one of our core resources is our market intelligence, and we believe in reliable, responsible, and relevant data, and that could not be more true than it is right now.
Absolutely, Monica. Thank you so much again for taking the time. And again, if you are listening right now, we encourage you, please share this with other business owners, other members of the community that could find this very helpful. Monica, thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.